If you've ever played any of the Diablo games or watched its gameplay, there's a really good chance that you've seen this guy. The Necromancer is one of the most powerful, imposing, flexible, and just overall cool characters in the entire franchise. There's no doubt in my mind that the Necromancer in Diablo 2 is the Necromancer. He is the penultimate depiction of what it's like to command hordes of dead mobs into battle and to utilize the dead as a weapon, to use pieces of fallen creatures, to use bits of corpses as bombs, swords, everything. The Necromancer from Diablo 2 is the ultimate depiction of necromancy at its finest. In this video, I'm not just going to detail the Necromancer in base game Diablo 2, but it's important to also clarify this is about Project Diablo 2 and my experience playing that mod. If you play vanilla Diablo 2, or I believe there's a few other mods, Diablo 2 Reimagined is one of the ones I've heard about, then this video might not apply to you as much, but it is an important distinction to make that this is about Project Diablo 2. Everything I say about the Necromancer as a character would apply to the Necromancer as he is depicted by Blizzard originally, but anything I say about the Necromancer's gameplay is heavily impacted by Project Diablo 2's changes that they've made to the Necromancer over time. I'd like to go ahead and preface by saying that the Project Diablo 2 devs have already done a fantastic job rebalancing and reworking old skills. Things like being able to run around with an entire horde of fire golems thanks to Dominion, or builds like Poison Strike, where you attack one time and an entire crowd of mobs just falls over. Builds like this are not possible in D2R. Um, they're really hard and usually have some kind of bullshit mechanic behind them. In Diablo 4, Diablo 3, the numbers get too crazy, stuff like that. Like, it can become kind of monotonous in these other games and in base game. So, Project Diablo 2 does a fantastic job to settle these builds that people wanted to see into the meta in a way that is really fun and engaging. But there's one skill that I want to gripe about that pertains to the Necromancer. For all of the really awesome things that the PD2 devs have done so far, the one thing that I feel like has been really neglected over time is Bone Spirit. And I know that there's going to be some veteran PD2 player or some veteran Diablo 2 player in vanilla that's going to say, oh, Bone Spirit's great, or oh, Bone Spirit's always been trash, or whatever. That's not the point of this video. The point of this video is to go over the fact that Bone Spirit is a vestige of what it should be. It is a homing projectile, and it chases enemies down. And that's kind of all it has going for it. High base damage, single target. I understand that it's meant to fall into a niche where it's meant to be this weird projectile that's sort of a summon and sort of not, that does damage a few times. But I would like to propose a potential band-aid to the problem that it's facing. I have seen people tell me they don't even use it on their character. I've seen builds that explicitly state like, hey, Bone Spirit's not going to do you much good. You could use it against bosses if you want, um, but you're probably not going to get much bang for your buck. I've had people tell me, yeah, you can make a Bone Spirit build, but it's probably going to suck. And all of those things, I think, are mega lame. For as cool as the Necromancer is, he does not deserve to have a skill that has a level 30 requirement that is so underwhelming, people are willing to not even use it, even if they dump points into it for a synergy. It's almost bizarre. It's so jarring to me that the Bone Spirit skill is this weak. And I'd really like to see it get some kind of gameplay update that fixes this exact problem. And I have a few propositions that could. And by the way, this is my first ever edited video, so if the voiceover sounds, like inconsistent, or if some visual effects on the screen don't look right, or if it doesn't render properly, that's why. I've literally never done this before. I was inspired by uh, YouTubers such as Regular Schmuck, Zarfin the Loot Goblin, Looter, um, oh, what's his name? Phil SC? I can't remember all of the names. But there are some really awesome Diablo 2 YouTubers. I'll link all of them in the description of this video. You should, if you're seeing this video, this is a far cry compared to what these people put out. I'm a particular fan of Looter. I listen to his videos when I'm tired. I think he's
I'm
one of
Luther.
the funniest
Today, I'm
YouTubers
going to
on the
play
platform. Like,
Werewolf.
personally, I think he's one of the best Diablo 2 players as well. His hardcore challenges always get me to crack up. They're one of the most entertaining things I've ever watched. Regular Schmuck, Zarfin, and Phil, and of course, there's so many people, but those three are probably some of the biggest ones for me. I also remember the Backlogs, I think, made a few videos, and those were really entertaining as well. So go check those videos out after watching my video, or if you decide that this video has, if you've already decided that this video blows, just go watch them, please. Those people are so deserving. The first of my unorganized thoughts is give it some kind of effect that plays around its repeated casts. Now, one of the things about Bone Spirit that I don't like that is comparable to other skills is that Bone Spear has this interesting effect where at levels 15 and 25, the projectile gains additional projectiles in each cast, and Teeth already does this at base. But Bone Spirit has nothing, it just gains damage. And I understand you can't just add something to every skill. Some skills are, best kept simple. But in Bone Spirit's case, one of the things that I think it would benefit from, this is option A, is when it kills a target, it should reset its duration and seek a new target. One of the things that has always been like a huge gripe for me about Bone Spirit is that it doesn't seek more targets. Once its initial target is found and then slain, Bone Spirit's done. It stops harming enemies, it flies off, into the sunset, and then it fades away slowly. There's no additional effect for Bone Spirit slaying an enemy, and that can really blow because you can see the potential in Bone Spirit being able to chain between multiple enemies. Idea B of my assorted ideas is actually kind of based on another balancing decision that was made in PD2, and that is the Sorceress and her Meteor gaining physical damage. In contrary to this, I think it would be really cool to see the Necromancer gain cold damage on Bone Spirit. Now, I understand this looks a little weird on paper, but hear me out. One of the coolest things about adding elements to classes is that it gives them the ability to play with gear that they could no longer or not previously play with. In the Necromancer's case, this would give him the ability to utilize items that give plus to cold skills. Namely, a really, really good example of this is Snow Clash. Getting that additional +1 to skills could be the difference between the Necromancer doing an additional upwards of 150 to 300 even damage, and that's before percentage increases. And we aren't even talking about things like facets and other gear that gives plus to cold skills as well. You've got Nightwings, you've got things like Medusa Gaze. You probably wouldn't use these pieces of gear, but there are gear options that would suddenly open up for the Necromancer in a big way if he was able to interact with cold damage. And this would be really awesome to see because getting that additional damage source could allow him to play around Bone Spirit, especially if it was given some kind of effect that allowed it to hit multiple enemies, like an explosion or otherwise. It doing a cold nova at the end of its duration would be really, really awesome. The last of my assorted ideas was the idea of changing its synergies. Now, this is one of the big ones for me. Poison Dagger and Revive have some of the best changes to their synergies ever. Making Poison Dagger not a synergy of Poison Nova means that Poison Nova and Poison Dagger get to be contextually different skills, meaning they're not side grades or a downgrade of one another. Both of them excel at one thing. Nova is safer, but does less damage. Dagger is less safe, but does even more damage and can chain kills. This makes Dagger really strong if you like to go super balls to the wall and super unsafe, whereas in the case of Poison Nova, if you prefer the safety and the AoE that is just pressing a button and watching things starting to die, Nova has a lot of that safety. It's really awesome. And I think this could be reflected in Bone Spirit. If you remove its synergy with something like Teeth or Bone Spear, but keep its synergy with Bone Armor, you could have a unique situation where Bone Spirit could get more benefit from being synergized with something else. This could even be that aforementioned cold damage change. You could make it synergize with Skeleton Mastery, or one of the Skeleton summons. Make it so that Skeleton Mage and Skeleton Warrior focused necromancers have an offensive skill specifically catered to them, or make it so that by ranking Golem Mastery or Revive or something, anything, there's myriad skills that you could change on the Necromancer to reflect something like this. Even Bone Prison, giving it a synergy with Bone Prison where it does additional cold damage and has a cold nova explosion at the end would be awesome. You imprison a crowd of enemies, throw your bone spirits at them, all of a sudden they start getting blown up by cold novas. Really, really cool potential for synergy changes. Anyway, that's all. Those are all my thoughts. If this reaches the PD2 devs, I would be very happy. Um, Hello, if you're seeing this video at all. Uh, Hi, I don't really do this kind of thing often, but I've always been interested in doing this kind of thing. Um, if you enjoyed this video, if you liked how I organized this video, thank you. If this wasn't very entertaining, but you watched to the end still, thank you as well, and I'm sorry, and I maybe will do this again in the future. I don't know. I'm starting Vyvanse tomorrow. Uh, Life is about to be a whole lot different when I'm, on stimulants. Anyway, um, that's everything. Please check out the other Diablo YouTubers that I've listed. They are really awesome, and enjoy playing games. Enjoy playing Diablo 2. I love Diablo 2. I am excited to see what the Project Diablo 2 devs do in the future, and I'm also really excited to see if they potentially see this video and maybe give me some input on the things that I've shared today. Anyway, bye.